A judge today dismissed the criminal cases against two of Donald Trump's perceived political enemies, the former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, and New York's Attorney General Letitia James. Eric Siebert was fired after he refused to bring the case against Jim Comey and Tish James. He believed that there was not enough evidence to charge them with crimes. The president went to extreme measures to substitute one of his allies to bring these baseless charges after career prosecutors refused.
I want to hop over to Nicole Wallace, breaking down more of the political weaponization we're seeing from MAGA and Trump, but this time it falling apart, not being successful, as the Letitia James and Comey cases have been tossed out. So leave us a like on the video if you can. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers. That helps us out a ton, and let's just hop right into it.
A judge today dismissed the criminal cases against two of Donald Trump's perceived political enemies, the former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, and New York's Attorney General Letitia James. The judge ruling that the prosecutor who brought the cases was improperly appointed. Judge Cameron Curry ruling that the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, one Lindsay Halligan, quote, has been unlawfully serving in that role, end quote. You may recall that the first Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney, Eric Siebert, was fired after he refused to bring the case against Jim Comey and Tish James. He believed that there was not enough evidence to charge them with crimes. So then Halligan was appointed 48 hours after that now infamous Truth Social post from Trump directing AG Pam Bondi, calling her Pam, and calling for charges for Tish James, Comey, and Senator Adam Schiff, and demanding that Bondi put Halligan in place.
This is extra hilarious to me because it further exposes how MAGA doesn't believe anything they say and will just blow with the wind for a talking point. I mean, a big talking point for them when they were talking about Trump's charges was, oh, Merrick Garland was appointed by Biden, which proves it's weaponized and corrupt and not legit and blah, 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 despite Garland's appointment being made, of course, to separate the investigation from the DOJ, so they were independent as Biden. But that's not legit, of course, if you ask MAGA, though. Now, when Trump fires the first guy he picks and lets get through the entire interim period just because he won't bring charges, then posts demanding that these specific people get indicted, and hand selects his personal prosecutor who then immediately takes up these cases. Well, that's legit and no weaponization. Like, are we being serious? I think it's pretty clear to anyone with at least 85 IQ, which is why MAGA doesn't get it, what political weaponization actually looks like, which this just kind of further confirms that it never happened to Trump. So great job, MAGA.
He wrote this in his decision to dismiss the Tish James case, quote, I reject the Attorney General's attempt to retroactively confer special attorney status on Ms. Halligan. Regardless of what the Attorney General intended or could have done, the fact remains that Ms. Halligan was not an attorney authorized by law to conduct grand jury proceedings when she secured Ms. James' indictment. In other words, Donald Trump's own insistence to rush to prosecute Comey and Tish James turned out to be his prosecutor's undoing. In a statement, Tish James' attorney Abby Lowell says this, quote, the court's order acknowledges what has been clear about this case from the beginning. The president went to extreme measures to substitute one of his allies to bring these baseless charges after career prosecutors refused.
And that's pretty on the nose. And to be clear here, like, there are many avenues of how this was obviously a revenge tour, obviously corrupt, obviously a reach by Trump to target those he sees as enemies. But in terms of like legally and why this case was thrown out specifically, or these cases, I should say, Trump appointed the first prosecutor who, again, served the entire interim period that is required for any appointment, before then firing him specifically for refusing a case, which is well within his sole discretion to do, mind you. On the ground, he refused that case on the grounds that there wasn't enough evidence, before Trump then rushed to appoint another lawyerless, no Senate confirmation, and to have her rush the case through while still in her own interim period, even though it's not deemed constitutional. So she never was even in that interim period before then, of course, trying to have her, move grand juries, like all the things she did. It's insane that they still want to rush to defend this. And it's clear that Trump's bloodthirsty lust in targeting Democrats politically that he was compelled by in this tour of vengeance is what ended up being his undoing.
The charges were dismissed without prejudice, meaning that they could be refiled by someone else or somewhere else. But in the Comey case, the statute of limitations expired in September, and that is why All those posts from Trump came. It's why Halligan was put there and rushed in to charge Comey in the first place. Comey's attorneys have said that they plan to argue that he cannot be reindicted because the statute of limitations has now run out. In a video posted to Instagram, Comey says this dismissal is nothing short of a win for the rule of law.
And the problem they're going to experience with bringing this case back, the Letitia James one, she talked about the reason for Comey, which was the pettier of the two anyway, and was clearly rushed to try and make work. But with Letitia James, Halligan purposefully moved grand juries, moved the arenas, and withheld testimony from Letitia James' niece from the grand jury she then selected, Letitia James' niece had been staying at this second residence without paying rent, which negates the charges that they were bringing against her, which, you know, the odds that this sort of trickery is able to fly again, or they're able to do this somehow, is low. And with that testimony, there's not a grand jury that's going to indict her. There's just not. It's why the first prosecutor wouldn't bring it to trial or wouldn't bring it to them. And then, of course, you know, Trump had to do what authoritarians do, what people who weaponize the DOJ do. But again, I stuck my claim from when the first time they were looking into Letitia James and I covered this. I said, this will never make it to trial. And I'm willing to bet whatever, it never makes it to trial because it's horseshit.